Playwright Anton Chekhov famously said, "Never place a loaded rifle on stage if it isn't going to go off." In other words, every detail must be relevant, and every setup should have a payoff. Thus, the narrative principle of Chekhov's gun was born. But it isn't always a gun. Chekhov's Whatever is a podcast where myself and guests watch a movie and try to predict what role Chekhov's gun will play. Welcome to Chekhov's Whatever. Hello and welcome to Chekhov's Whatever, the podcast that makes a game of movies and storytelling. I'm your host, Meg Mazeski. Here with me today to discuss a family affair is Justine Gendron. Hello, Justine.
Hi.
Long time no see. So happy to have you here. Of course, Justine is well known to me, but please tell the listener a little bit about yourself.
About our sordid history.
Our past.
Well, I live in LA. I'm a world famous movie producer. Meg's a writer. Wait, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But we gotta let the people know that you and I have podcasted previously for many years.
Yeah, for about 4 years, Justine and I were co-hosts for the Pod Appetit Gourmet Takes podcast, which was originally a Bon Appetit podcast and then evolved into something very different. And yeah, Justine also had a rom-com podcast called The Cutaways. She's the perfect fit to talk about this movie today.
I know. I'm getting such Cutaways vibes. I mean, well, the worlds are blending because I'm actually using my old Cutaways microphone too.
Oh. Blast to the past.
Yeah. Talk about rom-coms. And this is why I quit doing that. No, just kidding.
But we've brought Justine out of retirement to talk about A Family Affair. This is a straight-to-Netflix, made-for-Netflix rom-com. It came out earlier this year in 2024. The Netflix description says, "Hooking up, sneaking out. If Zara could ground her mom, she totally would. A fling is one thing, but falling for Zara's movie star boss, so very awkward." It's directed by Richard LaGravenesse and stars Nicole Kidman, Zac Efron, Joey King, and Kathy Bates. At the moment, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's currently sitting at a 40% critic score and a 31% audience score. That sounds about right.
I can't believe they called it awkward in the description because that is right.
Yes, if awkwardness were a movie, this would be it. Did you have any expectations or thoughts for this movie before you watched it?
I didn't really. I didn't really know much about this one. I know that it's got a movie twin in the idea of you, and that's really all I knew about it. I didn't see any trailers or anything. I think just on Reels, I've just seen Joey King and Zac Efron talking to each other in promotion of it, but that's it. I had no thought of it at all.
I was about the same going in. I also didn't watch any trailers. Honestly, I was looking at what fun commercial movies were coming out recently, and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. Also, I have a lot of goodwill for Nicole Kidman. I like her career. I like her as an actress. I wouldn't say she's someone I go out of my way to watch everything she's in. Certainly not, but Moulin Rouge is one of my absolute favorite movies ever. So I was pretty excited to see Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
So before we get into A Family Affair, here's a quick overview of how Chekhov's Whatever works. This is a podcast where myself and the guest watch and review a movie that's new to us. We also play a little game where we try to guess what Chekhov's gun will be and how it will play out later in the movie. We get +1 point for correctly identifying a Chekhov's gun. Remember, there may be more than one or none. We also get an additional point for correctly guessing how that Chekhov's gun will pay off. And finally, we lose 1 point if we incorrectly identify a Chekhov's gun and its role. Whoever has the most points at the end of the movie wins. It's easy. Okay, A Family Affair starts off with a montage of movie star Chris Cole. This is played by Zac Efron. We see him at red carpet premieres, magazine covers, the paparazzi following him, etc. He has an appearance on Hot Ones, like you do. So, we're getting introduced to our main character. He is a celebrity dude. Then we meet one of our other main characters.
I have a guess.
Oh, you have a Chekhov's gun already?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Well, the thing is, as a world-famous movie producer as I am...
Indeed.
I know that I have to try and make a lot of guesses within the first act.
Yes, Chekhov's gun usually appears in the first act.
So, just spoiler, I may just be a little willy-nilly.
The more the better.
All right, I have a Chekhov's paparazzi shot.
And how do you think this will
I
pay
believe
off?
that this is going to play into some third act learning of information via photo.
So some sort of like reveal or like betrayal or something.
Yes.
Perhaps a misunderstanding that is so common among rom-coms.
Oh, yeah.
That is a very good guess. Moving on to our movie producer, or wannabe movie producer, I should say, is Zara Ford, as played by Zoe King. She's not a movie producer yet, though. She is the harried, bedraggled, put-upon assistant to Chris Cole. We see her stuck in infamous LA traffic. She's very anxious. She's pissed at all the other drivers, and she keeps looking nervously at a very conspicuous ring box in the passenger seat with her. Justine, do you know where in LA this might be? Is this like an infamous intersection or anything?
I wouldn't say it's an infamous intersection. No, it is just LA. But they did film, I want to say, a lot on the west side, and particularly in the Malibu area, which we're going to see prominently in everybody's rich houses.
What's the worst intersection or highway or place to drive in LA, in your opinion?
To the airport, of course.
Oh, of course, LAX. Never ask your LA friends to pick you up at LAX. They will hate you.
Yes. But I do have another Chekhov's gun guess.
Indeed.
Here. It's actually Chekhov's traffic jam.
Chekhov's traffic jam.
I believe that this traffic jam will take place delaying the grand gesture.
Yes. See, Justine is very well versed in rom-coms. These all sound very plausible.
That they do.
In the next scene, we see Chris with his girlfriend Ashley at the restaurant. He is impatiently waiting for Zara. He keeps checking his watch. And it seems like he's winding up to maybe pop the question to Ashley. We saw the ring box, and he's vamping for time. Zara finally arrives, and she tosses the ring box to him. But as it turns out, it is not an engagement ring. It is a pair of diamond earrings, and Chris is not proposing to his girlfriend. He is, in fact, breaking up with her. And Chris also, gives the classic line, maybe we can just be friends, to which Ashley says she thinks he doesn't have any friends.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Probably come back to that later. Then we go to Chris and Zara in the car. He is singing passionately to Do You Believe in Life After Love? There are a lot of needle drops in here that are, let's just say, not subtle at all. And this is the first of many. They argue about the new movie that Chris is in. It is a Christmas movie described as Die Hard meets Miracle on 34th Street meets Speed. Zara says the script needs a rewrite. Chris doesn't quite agree, but he knows that the movie is a bit of a stinker, and he orders her to retrieve his things that he left at his ex-girlfriend's place. The next scene, we meet our remaining main characters, Brooke Harwood, as played by Nicole Kidman. She is Zara's mom, and Leela Ford, Kathy Bates. I'll probably just call her Kathy Bates throughout the movie because she's Kathy Bates, We find out that Kathy Bates is Brooke's editor and former mother-in-law. Brooke used to be married to her son, Charlie, but Charlie has passed away. They are discussing Brooke's writing career. She is an accomplished published author, but she hasn't published a book for a while, and she is currently working as a writer at Vogue.
This scene had some really bad acting in it.
I felt like this movie overall was very uneven acting-wise. There were a few gems of scenes where I was like, oh, that was believable. But a lot of it feels very stilted.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's this scene so much, but I'll get back to it later when they're in the Christmas dinner together, where it's like everyone's waiting for the person to say their lines.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a really natural flow to the conversation, and I agree. I feel like this scene suffers from that.
Yeah, there was like one line where Nicole Kidman like physically like shrugs her shoulders and she's just like, I don't know. I'm like, what are you doing?
I mean, I don't want to be too mean because, like I said, I like Nicole Kidman, but her face can be a little frozen and expressionless sometimes. So maybe she has to make up with that with shrugging and, animated gestures and things like that. But I don't know. I think maybe she dissolved some of her fillers or something because she seemed more expressive in this movie than she has been.
But I think she also gets better as the movie goes on.
I think so too. Yeah, she starts out like a little bit wooden just in the performance, and then I do think it improves also. Yeah. We go to Zara and Brooke at their home they share. Zara is living with her mom. They're clearly very close. They are loving. They seem to have a happy domestic life together as mother and daughter.
In their huge house.
In their gigantic house.
Mansion.
There are obviously a lot of not very realistic things about this movie, but you have to be like J.K. Rowling level author to have enough money to afford a house like that.
And right on the beach.
Yes, and we know that Charlie, her dead husband, was also an author and not as successful as she. So I don't know how they afforded that home.
No.
It's crazy. Zara's complaining about her boss, Chris, and Brooke encourages her to stand up for herself. We get a little bit of exposition here. Apparently, Chris had promised Zara that he would teach her the business, the Hollywood business, help her become a producer, and then maybe one day run his company or help him run his company. But so far, these have all been empty promises, and this is really annoying Zara. Then we have Zara and Chris on the phone. She is running errands for him at the grocery store. He has a little bit of ennui. He doesn't like that he's always so recognizable when he goes out. He's yearning for a little bit of normalcy in his life. And as she's shopping for him, he says, "Oh, surprise me. I can't remember the last time I was surprised. I want something different."
He's like, I don't remember what grocery stores look like.
In fact, he says, "Do they still have those little rainstorm things on all the vegetables? I always loved those." And this is my Chekhov's grocery store rainstorms.
Oh.
I thought it was such a strange detail. So that's the thing. This is how I tend to zero in on Chekhov's guns, is if there's a very specific, very conspicuous detail where I'm like, but why? Not only was it very specific, but the camera lingers on him for a moment and he like smiles to himself when Zara says that these rainstorm misters still exist. And he's like, oh. And I think that this will come back later because he'll achieve this normalcy he wants. And I think later in the movie, he will be at a grocery store, just like having the time of his life, and he'll see those rain misters come on, and he will just be so happy that he has this little bit of regular, normal dude part of his life. We have another scene that's, it's maybe a little unimportant. Zara is talking with her writer friend, Stella, and she is trying to convince Stella to rewrite Chris's bad Christmas movie.
I do have a guess in this scene, though.
Oh, okay, great. Is it Chekhov's bralette?
No, I wish.
I thought for a second that maybe that bra she stole was going to come back somehow.
I just did a simple little Chekhov's phone. Because they showed that phone screen a lot.
Oh, yes.
So tight on it. I said, that phone's going to break.
Again, a conspicuous detail where you're like, why did they show that? Zara goes to Chris's house. She arrives late to find that the gate code has been changed. Chris is very mad that he is late. He threatens to fire her and does not let her in. She dramatically climbs over the gate, storms upstairs, and confronts Chris in person and says she quits. She's very mad that he has not made good on his promise to teach her the ropes and that there seems to be no path forward for her at Chris's company. Chris is very aghast, and he's even more aghast when he sees that she has put his expensive Chatouche t-shirt in the same bag as his dirty shoes. And then it's kind of like a whole, you can't quit, I fire you type of thing.
Mhm.
So Chris fires her.
I wanted just to talk about that scene, the like, I quit, you're fired. It's just like this weird way that they edited it. This doesn't have to do with the acting, but I was just watching it being like, this should be funny.
Yes. I felt like there were a lot of scenes where they cut away from the scene very quickly in a way where I was like, I can't imagine how this scene actually ended. A
Yeah.
lot of times when you move away from a scene, you're like, okay, I can imagine what happened next. But sometimes it's so in the middle of the action that you're just like, okay, and did she then like awkwardly walk away? Like, what happens next?
Yeah. I just don't know like why specifically they were using this over the shoulder on Chris, so Zara was dirty frame left when they're fighting. Because that like makes no sense to me. I was like, you should cut to the close up of him. You should see him closer so that they're pitted against each other. They're not like sharing the screen because they're not on the same page.
That makes sense.
Little editing magic.
Justine has all sorts of insights into how to make movies better. Next, we meet Zara's best friend, Eugenie, aka Jeannie, played by Liza Koshy.
Okay. I know we're going to get into this scene, but it took me a while to figure out who the heck is this woman?
Okay, for a second, I thought they were sisters.
Yes, same. I wrote down sister, and then I crossed it out.
I did too. I said sister, ? And then I crossed it out later. I should have gone back and watched it, but I think it's because someone calls Brooke mom in a way that...
She says mom, yeah.
Got it. Yes. Okay. So yes, again, something that could have been clearer or better in the movie. There's a lot of these things.
This is just a rewrite session.
Yes. Okay. We're the script doctors in this movie. We're the Stellas of this movie. Or the Brooks. We're going to make it better.
Yeah.
So Zara tells Jeannie about how she's quit her job. And Jeannie is kind of like, you go, girl. And she gives Zara a pin that says super bitch. It's a pink star with the word super bitch on it. And Zara protests. She says, oh, I don't deserve it. I'm unemployed. I'm 24. I'm living with my mom. I haven't done anything. The super bitch pin is for big things like, quote, promotions or STD results, end quote. This is my other Chekhov's gun. Ooh. Chekhov's super bitch. So I think that Jeannie will once again bestow the super bitch pin upon Zara when she does achieve her big goal, when she does get that big promotion, when she does feel like she is worthy of the super bitch pin. So that's another guess of mine. Zara goes to her mom, Brooke, and tells her that she quit. Brooke is not very happy about this. They argue. She says that Zara doesn't stick with things and lists all of these other classes and pursuits that she has quit in her life. And Zara whines and she's like, oh, why can't you tell me what to do with my life? And Brooke says she can't do that.
But also, she's just 24.
Yes. It's kind of funny watching a movie that a lot of the premise is about age, right? We have this May-December romance. We have this older woman with this younger man and then even younger daughter. But despite all that being supposedly the central friction, I feel like it's not really explored. And also it's really hard to relate to Zara's ennui when you're like, girl, you're 24.
Yes. A bit later down the line, I will be like, who is this movie for? Because of that reason you stated.
That's a very good question. Yes. Who is the target audience of this? We go back to Chris. He can't sleep. He is troubled. He knows that the script needs improvement and he realizes he also needs Zara back. Yeah. We also meet his two dogs. I think they're Great Danes. They're very cute. We see another side of him a little bit. We're like, oh, we see him cooking for his dogs. This is an easy way to humanize an unlikable character is to have them be kind to pets. We also have a needle drop of the song Fuck I'm Lonely with lyrics like, fuck I'm lonely, I'm lonely, I'm lonely. In case you missed it.
Oh, good. That's why I was thinking he was so lonely during that scene.
Apparently their target audience is dumb people who need everything spelled out. So Chris goes back to Zara's place with the intention of asking her to come back to work for him. This is where the meet cute with Brooke happens. He lets himself in. Zara is not there. Brooke is busy cleaning her office in her short shorts. She thinks that Chris is an intruder and grabs a giant, I don't know, candlestick? A big, heavy, chunky looking ornamental object. She seems about to hit him with it, but he's like, oh no, I'm Zara's boss.
It's me, famous guy, you know.
It's me. So Brooke freshens up and Chris, like you said, is like, hey, it's me, famous guy. She has not seen any of his movies, which he finds refreshing, it seems like. He's like, oh, here's this normalcy I want. Here's this woman who is not starstruck by me. She has not seen the Icarus. I'm trying to say Icarus and Rush at the same time. Okay, he is a superhero in this series called Icarus Rush, which I now realize is difficult to say out loud. But we find out that Chris is ignorant of the Icarus myth, and Brooke tries to explain it to him, and she gifts him a book that explains the myth.
Oh, wait. Before this, he gets the tequila?
Oh, it is before this. Yes,
Okay.
I apologize. They start doing tequila shots at what I assume is like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, yeah. Well, this is my Chekhov's tequila. Beep, beep,
Oh,
beep, beep.
mm-hmm. Let's not miss Chekhov's tequila shots.
Well, basically, the line was where she's like, "Here, do you want some water in the kitchen?" He goes, "Do you have tequila?" And I was like, "Chekhov's tequila." Writing down, he gets drunk and bangs her mom.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good Yes, so going back to Icarus, this part really made me laugh. Have you seen The Boy Next Door with Jennifer Lopez?
No, I don't think so.
So were some very funny parallels to me here because The Boy Next Door stars Jennifer Lopez. It's more of a thriller, but there's this much younger man, I think maybe her student, who becomes obsessed with her. So I'm like, okay, well, we have this age gap, romance in one case, not romance in the other. At some point, the boy in The Boy Next Door gifts to Jennifer Lopez the first edition of the Iliad, which is hilarious. But also I'm just like, so is like gifting Greek literature, is this some weird trope in rom-coms, age gap rom-coms in particular that I don't know about?
The old ladies love Greek literature.
I guess so. That's how to get into an older woman's pants if you're listening, just talk about the Odyssey for a while. I don't know. But Chris learns that Brooke is a writer. So this is a thing where I feel like this is too obvious to say as a Chekhov's gun because it's like, well, Brooke is going to rewrite the script at some point. I feel like that was too telegraphed for it to be also, a Chekhov's gun.
I mean, Chekhov's gun I would consider more like prop-like instead of like real thematic-like.
I see. Mm-hmm.
But I would say like if it was like about the books specifically that were gifted, that's what I would like put it at. But like, yeah, they're overall like, oh, I've been looking for a writer. Her mom's a writer. Yeah, from like...
Yeah, it's more just like setting up a plot point, which is different than... Yeah, there's a distinction there between... Well, this is something that this podcast will explore in all episodes and in future episodes, is what exactly is Chekhov's gun?
Yeah.
Chris and Brooke bond a little bit over their shared grief. She shares that her husband had died, and he says that his brother had also died. And we cut away briefly to Zara on the phone with her grandmother, Kathy Bates. And when we come back to Brooke and Chris, they are much closer together on the couch.
It's so awkward.
Oh, so awkward. They are canoodling. It's got this very cozy, soft, golden light filter. Their shoulders are touching. They're obviously tipsy, if not all out drunk. Chris's overshirt has gone somewhere. He's just wearing his undershirt now with his guns on display, shall we say. The muscles. They start getting very touchy. She feels his quads. She touches his face.
It's so forced.
See, Justine is the Zara stand-in in all ways. She's very grossed out by this romance.
Yeah.
He kisses her hand. One thing leads to another. They start passionately making out. They throw each other against walls, yada, yada. They go into the bedroom, rip their clothes off. Literally, she rips the chatouche.
Not the chatouche.
Not the chatouche. Zara comes home, apparently has no boundaries with her mom because she walks right into her mother's closed bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she stumbles upon them in the middle of doing the dirty deed.
Mid-coitus.
Mid-coitus. We get a little bit of slapstick here. Zara chokes on a grape she was eating. She runs smack into a wall and gets a big old goosebump on her head and pretty much knocks herself silly.
Not funny.
And she's utterly grossed out by Zac Efron's skin being so close to her.
Glistening.
Yes, very oiled, very sweaty. They go to the doctor's office. Zara confronts her mother about what she just witnessed. This is maybe the only time that the age gap is explicitly mentioned. Mm-hmm. And Zara says that she's grossed out by the fact that, A, they are together because she kind of hates Chris. But more than that, she doesn't want to see her mom get hurt. She knows how Chris uses and then dumps the girls he's with. And Brooke, I don't know if she doesn't really want to hear it, but she's kind of dismissive of it. And at this point, she's kind of like, oh, it's just a fling. It was just sex. We get a silly little scene with the doctor fanboying
I have
over
a question.
Chris.
Why is it a pediatrician?
This is a great question. It does not make sense. Maybe there's a cut scene. Maybe there was some scene where the only person available was a pediatrician for some reason.
Yeah, it was very weird. That's like all these grown-ups are just in these like tiny child chairs and like...
Yes, there's a bunch of kids in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Maybe Chris wanted to go somewhere where he wouldn't be recognized. Yeah, maybe there's a missing scene here that explains this. It's a weird little detail. We also get the doctor referencing the fact that Chris can apparently sing, which is a nod, of course, to Zac Efron's real ability to sing.
Oh, can he sing?
You know what? I have a confession to make. I have not seen any of the High School Musical movies.
I mean, we're a little too old for them.
That is true. We kind of missed
we
that.
just, yeah, I would say we just missed them. But
yes.
Did you see that one musical that doesn't look
Hairspray?
good? Oh, wait, the other one.
I saw Hairspray.
The Hugh Jackman one.
Oh, yes, of course. Greatest Showman. Yes, I did see that one. It was not very good. It's pretty bad, actually, but the songs were fun. They were very poppy songs.
It's those Dear Evan Hansen songwriters.
After the doctor, Chris takes Zara home, and he asks her to come back to work for him. He offers her the role of associate producer and is basically trying to convince her to come back. Zara's reluctant, but she says she will accept his offer, but only if Chris and her mom never do it again. And Chris agrees. I will say that this doesn't really come back into play too much because they're immediately at it again. Yep. Zara once again begs Chris to read Stella's script rewrite to try to convince him to make the movie a little better. Next, we see that Chris has invited Brooke to dinner over text. She doesn't commit, but he says, well, if you decide to show up, I've made reservations. She has her little kind of pseudo makeover scene. She's trying on her countless fashionable Vogue dresses.
That she never wore before.
She's not like the other girls, Justine. She doesn't care about pretty expensive designer clothes, okay? She doesn't know who movie stars are.
She only is a beautiful, model-esque woman living on the beach in Malibu in a giant house. What does she know of that fame lifestyle?
She would never. Brooke does, of course, show up to dinner. Chris, as a big gesture, has booked out the entire place, but also he doesn't like having onlookers or the paparazzi around. And he explains that he used to work at this restaurant. Oh, so he came from humble means. I guess this is supposed to endear us to him as well.
He has talked to people at one point.
Yes. Doesn't have his assistant do literally everything, apparently. Brooke admits that she was nervous to come, and Chris says that he was worried that he wouldn't impress her. And they kind of, they say, we shouldn't do this again. We shouldn't have sex again. But you can tell that neither of them really means it. They say maybe we should just be friends. And once again, we get the line where poor Chris feels like he doesn't have any friends and he hasn't had friends ever since he moved to LA. And he doesn't feel like he can be free to be himself, except for in one place, and that is on a set of New York City.
Can we talk about the friend thing? That's so weird. Like, that's a him thing that, like, you don't even have friends with, like, other actors you work with on set. Like,
Yeah, and later we learned that he was invited over to George Clooney's place for Christmas, and it's just like, well, it seems like he has friends. And also, I feel like there's already enough hurdles to getting us to like Chris or to getting him into a healthy romantic relationship with Brooke. There's already so much. There's the age difference. There's the fact that he can be so immature and narcissistic. There's the fact that he wants normalcy but can't have it. So we already have all of these hurdles to be overcome by the end of the movie that I feel like we don't need I need friends, especially since it doesn't really get resolved.
yeah.
Like, does he have friends by the end of the movie?
No,
Maybe.
he just steals their family.
He just, ingratiates himself into the girl's family. Exactly. But yes, he takes her to New York. It is a set. It is an empty movie set. They stroll down the street. They sit on the steps of a brownstone. It's a little montage. They try on costumes. They're so cute. Nicole Kidman puts on a top hat. I was wondering if it was a nod to Moulin Rouge, or maybe I just read Moulin Rouge into everything because it's a far superior movie.
I got it. Oh my God, sorry.
We see a little bit more to Chris. He shows that he can be thoughtful, and he demonstrates that he has now read some of Brooke's writings. And he quotes to her, "He was an island of one, having sent all the ships back to sea." She seems a little bit impressed, and once again, she says, like, you don't need to be a movie star to impress me. I like you for who you are. They kiss some more, and they immediately go back on their promise to not let this happen again. So, yeah, they seem recommitted to each other by the end of this scene.
Yeah, they do it in that props department. I
You
feel
know
bad
they
for all
do
those
it.
prop people.
Someone is gonna have to clean those costumes. Zara catches her mom sneaking back home in the middle of the night. This is a kind of funny little role reversal, the daughter catching the mom sneaking in. I thought that was kind of cute. Brooke confesses that she did have dinner with Chris, but when Zara asks her if anything else is going on between them, she says no. So she lies to her daughter about this. There's a little bit of comic relief, sidekick time, blah, blah, blah. We get a montage of time passing. We get to see Chris and Brooke and their relationship. They are at, I assume, Chris's beach house in Malibu? Question mark?
Probably. Let's just call it all Malibu.
There's not a lot of talking. It's just clips of them, doing coupley things. They're dancing together. They're making food together. They're playing board games. Has a very Big Little Lies vibes to me.
Yeah. And you know what's fun is when in a few scenes that we find out that it's like Christmas time. I thought back to this scene that I was just like, it looked so summery and bright and we're on the beach.
Surprise Christmas. Yeah. Yes, I will have more thoughts on that later because it's like a Christmas jump scare.
Yes. But yeah, the phone montage, dating montage, it was very like, ooh, so fun and sneaky.
Oh, so forbidden, but so in love.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole Kidman is very overdressed in big chunky sweaters, while Zac Efron is like shirtless. That's fine. There's some goofy stuff that happens on set later between Zara and Chris and the director. Shenanigans, it's not important.
Mm-hmm.
But later in the scene, Chris asks Zara if she got his +1 for this gala event he's going to that night. She asks who the +1 is, and he won't tell her. So obviously, it's Brooke.
Yeah. Is it also in this scene where Chris tells Zara that he found another writer? He won't be using her friend?
Yes, that's true, because Zara is once again asking him to get the script reworked, and he says, I have that taken care of. It's all sewn up. And it turns out Surprise, surprise, Brooke is the person who has rewritten the script. Zara finds the script in her mother's room. She sees it marked up, and she realizes that her mom is still seeing Chris and that she is most likely the +1 to the gala event that night.
Yeah, this is his biggest red flag of the whole thing about how he doesn't mind mixing business with pleasure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, is he paying her? Because, I mean, if it were me, I'm a freelance writer, so I'd be like, are you going to pay me to do line edits? Because...
And I don't mean in kisses.
Not with sexual favors.
Yeah, this could have got him sued right here. Especially, I mean, like, I think she would need to be union. I think there's all these things.
Would she get a writing credit? You know, yeah, like... Who gets the writing credit on this dang script? Everyone's had their fingers on it.
Yep. I love it. Out of everything, I'm like, this is the biggest issue I have right here.
Oh, I have a big industry issue at the end of this movie. Yeah. So Zara crashes the gala event. Jeannie is also there for some reason, for laughs, I suppose. But once again, she walks in on her mom and Chris canoodling. She confronts her mom and is very mad that her mom has lied to her and has hidden the relationship from her. Basically, they have a big old argument. At one point, Brooke compares Chris to Zara's dead father, and this makes Zara very mad. She also unloads about how she feels like she's been living under Brooke's shadow her entire life and can't live up to all of her achievements.
Self-imposed.
Absolutely self-imposed.
And also the comparison was just Brooke saying, I haven't had feelings like this since your father. She wasn't directly saying, he's like this like your father. But
yeah, there were no value judgments made. It was just Brooke expressing her feelings for Chris.
But Zara is having this big old hissy fit right now.
Yes, Zara, as we see throughout the movie and as they confront later in the movie, makes everything about herself. This is the thing she has to get over, is not centering herself in other people's lives.
Yep. So then she does her ultimatum, which is stupid.
Yes, she gives her mom an ultimatum. She says, break up with Chris or she will move out of the house. Brooke is probably secretly thinking in her head, thank God, it's about time. Yeah. But what she actually says is maybe she shouldn't have moved in. Well, you know, fair. But this makes Zara even more angry. The argument ends badly, and there's hurt feelings all around, and Zara goes to live with her friend Jeannie, at least for a little while. Brooke obviously feels badly about this, and like I assume most parents would do, she decides to prioritize her daughter, and we see her beginning to distance herself from Chris. They are talking on the phone, and she's making excuses for why she can't see him, and he says, well, I'll see you at New Year's, and she's very non-committal. Chris says, love you. Oops, awkward. And there's a big awkward pause, so awkward, and then Brooke just says, bye.
I thought that part was natural, though, where he's just like,
oh, for sure.
Love you. And then he went,
have you ever done the thing where you accidentally say love you to like a coworker or something because it's just the way that you end a phone call?
No, but I witnessed it happen to someone else in front of me.
Yeah, one of my husband's coworkers did that to him. It's something that I'm deeply afraid I will do someday.
Yes. Should be everybody's fear.
Live in constant fear of telephone calls is what we're saying.
Yes.
Now it's time for Christmas jump scare. It's suddenly Christmas. Oh my God. So something I learned about this movie, and it all makes a lot more sense now, is that the initial release date of this movie was November of 2023. So it was going to be in Netflix's carousel of, oh, here are some fluffy Christmas movies you might want to watch. I don't know why they changed the release date, but it ended up coming out in July of 2024 instead. So anyway, I guess that explains the random Christmas element all of a sudden.
And we all went, it's a Christmas movie?
I did notice that there was a Christmas tree in Brooke's home in the beginning of the movie. And I clocked it and I was like, that's strange. But that's about all I thought of it. I was like, well, you know, she seems like a very organized person, but maybe she just keeps her Christmas tree up all year round. But no, it turns out all along it was a secret Christmas movie.
Then why are people working? Jeez Louise. I feel like Hollywood shuts down. It's just like, nah, we're good. 2 weeks before Christmas. Get out of here.
Yeah, they're working way too hard.
Because nobody, I want to say nobody celebrates Christmas here, but a lot of people leave. Like, that traffic shouldn't have existed if it was Christmas time.
True. Well, and it's also kind of funny, too, in retrospect, that they're trying to emphasize that it's Christmas by having Chris film a Christmas movie. But it's like, regardless of when a movie is released, it can be filmed at literally any time and is. So it's a little silly that they are filming a Christmas movie at Christmas time.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
No, it does not.
They're going to have post-production be a year on that? Jeez.
They're taking their time with it. It's
not
a Marvel movie.
Effects.
It's a superhero movie, but not a Marvel movie, I guess. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so we are at a cozy winter ? Cabin. There's a lot of fake snow around. I'm not really sure where exactly they are.
They go to Big Bear. They do.
Is that what they said? Okay.
Yeah, they do say that, but it's so funny that I'm watching the movie that I'm going, how are people going to know where Big Bear is? Like, I literally just said it to my mom this week, and she didn't know.
Well, I mean, through context clues, we can be like, it's a wintry, mountainy, probably ski resorty place, I would assume.
Yes, drivable from LA.
Yes. It's kind of like the Tahoe to San Francisco.
Indeed.
It all makes sense now. So Brooke and her mother, Kathy Bates, are decorating the Christmas tree. Kathy Bates really wants to invite Chris to come join them. She makes some very lewd comments about her daughter-in-law's new boyfriend. What a heartthrob he is.
She's the best.
She is the best. I mean, Kathy Bates is the best in anything, really, so I will not complain about any scene with her. Brooke says she doesn't want to complicate things with Zara, but she finally relents and agrees that they should invite Chris. Kathy Bates has a heart-to-heart with Zara. Mm-hmm. She basically says, sunglasses on, deal with it, Zara. Your mom is not just a mom, she's a woman as well. And as a woman, she deserves to feel loved. And Zara actually seems to take this to heart and listens to it and begrudgingly puts her best face forward when Chris does, in fact, join the ladies for a very cozy Christmas time. They are having Christmas Eve dinner together. They share stories, and Chris says he hasn't had a home to go to for a long time.
Is he an orphan?
I know, right? Well, and also he says that he has a dad and a surviving brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like his only sibling dies. He, in fact, has another brother and a father whom, I don't know, did they disown him? What happened with that?
What happened with this guy?
I know, right? This was the scene that felt the most stilted to me. It did not feel like a natural conversation. It did not feel like actual anecdotes. It was like, cue the laughing, ha 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 ha, So I don't know. I didn't really buy the found family bliss moment necessarily.
Yeah, this is where I wrote down, who is this movie for?
It's a good point. Maybe our moms?
I don't know, man.
I don't know either. Brooke and Kathy Bates debrief. Kathy Bates very literally wants to debrief Chris, but basically they talk about Charlie's relationship with Brooke. Brooke confesses that they were, in fact, in a rocky place before he passed, and he had wanted a divorce because essentially he was jealous of her success as an author, whereas he had not achieved the same success. But then he was stricken by a mysterious illness that is never named, and they decided to stay together, and Brooke stayed by him, and then he passed. And Kathy Bates, she's disheartened that Brooke didn't confide in her sooner and says, "You're like a daughter to me," and basically asks, well, does Chris make you happy? To which Brooke says yes. And we see that Zara has overheard the whole thing. And once again, she's introspective.
So in this scene, does Brooke say when she's crying, I don't want to need him?
Yes, she does.
In what way is she lacking anything?
I mean, I guess emotionally, I guess if you felt that you needed another person and then they died like it did for her, that would be worse than, say, I don't know, losing financial dependence on someone.
Right, but it's not like she's been like living in this deep depression or anything.
True.
Like her life has been fine without him.
It's true. It does kind of ring true for me, though. Here's a woman who is widowed, and most of her misgivings about the relationship is she knows what it's like to lose a partner. That's what she's afraid of, and she keeps focusing on the what if of the future, whereas Chris and Kathy Bates are like, well, the future's out of our control. Like, let's look at what we have now. I think that's a pretty common stumbling block in romances and romantic comedies. Is like, oh, but what if it doesn't work out, which I feel like is so lame. It's like, yeah, maybe it won't, but you won't know that unless you try.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think I then would want more of those what if, that personality, for her to do that to Zara more.
That's a good point, because if we want Brooke to be a consistent character, then she would probably be telling Zara things like, because basically she's telling Zara to take risks, whereas she's not willing to take risks herself. So yeah, that's not quite consistent.
Yeah, where's the script doctor on this?
Put on that little mirror thing that those doctors have, the old-timey doctors. It's my script doctoring hat. Yes. It's Christmas morning. Chris shows off his thoughtful side that appears every once in a while. He has created an anthology of Brooke's works and put it together in a very lovely leather-bound book.
Which, when did he have the time to do that?
Right? Yeah, not a lot of time has passed in this movie, but no, he creates this beautiful, bespoke, one-of-a-kind book. Brooke is very touched, and, we see this look on Zara's face where she's like, maybe I misjudged Chris. So Chris and Brooke and Zara are leaving the home, and Chris says, this has been the best Christmas ever. So, of course, as anyone who has watched a rom-com, we know that now it's time for dun-dun-dun, the third act misunderstanding / breakup. And it comes immediately, almost instantly after he says, this is the best Christmas ever. So Zara is packing up the car, and she finds the breakup earrings in Chris's bag. And she's like, he's not going to dump my mom. So we are now back at Brooke's home. And Zara decides now is the time to confront Chris about everything in front of her mother. So she really unloads. She doesn't start out criticizing the relationship, but just Chris in general, and saying how he misuses her as an assistant. And she says things like he made her buy surprise gifts for his dog with her own money, because otherwise it wouldn't be a surprise. Which honestly I thought was pretty funny. Also awful things like he made her write apology letters to him and things like that. And Brooke is a little taken aback, like, did you really do those things?
Yeah.
And I just have to take a step back, because there's so much whiplash in the Chris character, because it's not like we see him meet a point where he goes from old Chris to new, reformed, redeemed Chris. It's just that he ping-pongs between incredibly immature, incredibly petulant, incredibly selfish Chris, which is how Zara knows him, to like thoughtful and introspective and sweet Chris. I mean, is he just like purposefully duplicitous? I mean, what? It's hard to really like Chris when we know that he is so awful sometimes, but then also very nice sometimes.
I think maybe what they were going for is that someone like Brooke really grounds him, and then when he doesn't have that type of person, he is a little insane and does like little famous guy weird things because no one's around him, because he doesn't have any friends to like,
right.
Really. Yeah, and then but I feel like what they're going for at the end is that, like, yeah, we both contain two wolves.
Inside us are two wolves. The famous wolf and the normie wolf.
Exactly. We can all relate to that.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Meg, the famous podcaster. This is also the moment where Zara reveals that she has found the breakup earrings, and she tells her mom this is what Chris always does. He breaks up with a girl, he gives her this identical pair of diamond earrings, and Chris is going to dump you just like he's dumped everyone else. And Chris protests. He says, no, 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 this is just a fallback idea. I don't know what I was thinking. I bought these at first, yes, but they were just a gift, and then I got the idea for the anthology. But then Zara says to her mom, did he take you to New York Street?
Uh-oh.
That's kind of the other shoe dropping, and you can tell that Brooke is struck, and she feels like the special moment she shared with Chris wasn't so special after all. So Brooke is shooketh, and she asks Chris to leave, and he does. Zara is unapologetic. She says she knows what he's really like. Brooke does not agree and says that she wishes she hadn't done it that way.
Yeah.
Once again, sad feelings, hurt feelings. Cue the sad holiday montage.
Sad third act montage.
Sad third act breakup. I'm sure they won't get back together.
No, the movie ends.
End of movie. But yes, we do get the sad montage with the song A Present Without a Bow by Casey Musgrave. I think it's a fun song. Well, I don't know if fun's the right word, but I like it. It's on my own Christmas music playlist. I'll just say that. So we go through the Christmas season. It is New Year's Eve. A little side plot that's been happening is that Zara and Jeannie had a fight because Jeannie had broken up with her longtime boyfriend, Malcolm, and Zara had not noticed nor cared really. So they had a fight, but then they make up. Zara apologizes and gives the super bitch pin to Jeannie. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we'll talk about more on that a little bit later. Zara and Brooke exchange bittersweet New Year's wishes over text, but it seems like they are still not talking to each other. Finally, we have Zara and Chris hashing it out in his trailer on the movie set. He is once again being very petulant. He says that he feels like a bad guy, and Zara says, you're not a bad guy, you just act like one sometimes. Once again, he says he had no intention of breaking it off with Brooke. He just bought the earrings as a reflex, essentially. And he also defends taking her to the New York set, saying that it was the only way he could get away from the paparazzi. And even though he took all his girls there, it was different with Brooke, and he fell in love. So, yes, he confesses his love for Zara's mother to her. Zara apologizes and says that she is going to quit after this movie wraps up, but she promises to take care of him like always, and they do a little secret handshake thing.
That they've never done before.
And they are suddenly a lot closer than they've ever been in the entire movie for some reason. Although I will say, I kind of enjoy their relationship. It has a very sibling vibe to it. They are always giving each other crap. There does seem to be some affection there between them, grudging affection, but then they just, give each other shit all the time. So yeah. I feel like that's a believable relationship. Zara decides to patch things up with her mom, too. She goes home, and we find out Brooke is moving to Princeton to teach the next semester. They have a little heart-to-heart. Zara says that Brooke deserves to be happy and to be seen. They reconcile, and essentially Zara gives Brooke her blessing to be together with Chris. But Brooke says, no more Chris. It's time to get back to real life. Get back to that normie life. And then we have our finale scene. Zara and Chris go to a grocery store. Also, side note, she parks really awfully. She's pretty much on the line.
Yes, she does.
I'm like, you couldn't do another take.
They did not do another take. We got the drone for 5 minutes. You park it now.
It is good enough. The parking job is good enough. It turns out Brooke and her mother, Kathy Bates, are also at the same grocery store. Kathy Bates says that she needs horned melons for her dementia. We see that Zara and Kathy Bates have orchestrated this little grocery store re-meet cute. But in the store, Chris is like a kid in a candy store, not a grocery store. He's going crazy. He's loving the cereal aisle. He is thrilled that no one seems to recognize him. Everyone seems to be normaling, as Zara says. And then all of a sudden, Chris bumps into, who could it be, Brooke in the produce section. It turns out Zara has orchestrated, or should we say produced, the whole thing, and she apologizes to them both. She says she was wrong about them and that she's sorry, and basically gives them a moment alone. Chris and Brooke, they patch things up. Chris says he doesn't want to be an island of one, and he starts like caressing her hair, and she's not quite ready to jump back in yet, and she hesitates, and she says it's a long shot. Again, she says she's worried about how it's all going to end.
Yeah.
And Chris is like, oh, we've just started, and I want to get a shopping cart and make a list and go to the cereal section, and let's do that. And she agrees and says, yeah, that sounds like a good place to start. They kiss. Zara says, go rainstorms, and cues the rainstorms, and then the rain misters start falling on the vegetable aisle. It's a very, very misty, very rainy, thundery kiss. I thought this was cute and funny because it's such a send-up of other romances where the couple is like kissing in the rain, like The Notebook or something like that, you know, but instead it's kissing by the rain misters in the grocery store. I thought it was cute, personally. We end the movie with a flash forward to 1 year later. So Brooke is reading her new book titled Second Time Around on NPR, to which I say, lol, like the publishing industry is like maybe the most glacial industry ever. And the fact that she could have written and finished and marketed and published and be doing the promotional rounds for a book in a year is hilarious. It's just hilarious.
And also the book is between her face and the microphone when she's talking.
Bad microphone etiquette. Let's just say that. Also, hilariously to the industry, Zara is now, okay, maybe you can answer this for me. What type of producer is she?
Dude,
do you think?
I don't know. Yes, this bothers me because I was like, you're 24. You don't know anything about this industry and suddenly you want to like make decisions? No. So she's just a puppet. She's a puppet to Chris's company.
We're to believe that in a year she's gone from being an assistant to being a lead producer of some kind.
Yeah.
She's like giving notes to directors. She is organizing call times and shoots, and it's like, that doesn't seem believable to me.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, the only reason it is believable is because it's his money fronting it.
That's true. It's that Nepo baby stuff.
It is. That's what the end turned around was just like, nepotism.
So we end with Zara,
Taking
the Nepo
our
baby.
jobs.
And Chris makes a your mom joke. Ha ha ha. They say love you to each other. Zara and Chris do. And that's the end. That is the end of A Family Affair. Yay. And everyone applauded.
Did they? I didn't like this payoff at the end. Well, not just like that flash forward, but the whole end. It wasn't big enough. It wasn't. I don't know. Oh, yeah. You said you had thoughts about it.
I felt like the movie as a whole was more muted than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a movie that had the opportunity to be more over the top. You know, we've got this zany movie star with his weird quirks, and there's so much potential for like a big romantic gesture.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of well-trodden ground that you have this celebrity who, you know, everyone wants what they can't have. He wants to be a normal guy. He wants to be a normal dude. I do think that they laid the groundwork for that well enough that I was at least satisfied that there was this like grocery store scene. He got what he wanted, and what he wanted was actually something like very regular and low stakes. So on the one hand, I appreciated that. I appreciated that the movie was a lot tamer, a lot more low stakes than I would have initially thought. But on the other hand, because it is, I would say, a rather subdued movie overall in the scheme of rom-coms, at least.
Yeah.
It feels like it's not leaning into its genre as much as it could. Like, it's taking itself a little bit more seriously than it should. And it's like, well, okay, like, you are a rom-com. It doesn't have to be this subdued necessarily.
Yeah. And I don't know. There's something with it throughout the whole thing of like, who's this POV from? And at the end, we have to settle with it, like, sort of being Zara as the POV. But she's so, like, inactive through the whole thing. She just is, like, whiny, whiny, whiny. And then she's like, fine, I'll do a thing, you know?
Yes, I think that that's a very good point, because I did ask myself, well, like, who is the main POV character on this? And Except for the montage in the very beginning. The movie does start with Zara in the car, and it ends with Zara at her office. So it is bookended by Zara. But I will say, by the time we reached the end of the movie, I felt like it would have been better served with Brooke as the main POV character. Because ending it on Zara, I was kind of like, well, I don't care.
Yeah.
I want to see more of how this story ends for Brooke, because at the end of the day, it is a romance and it is a rom-com, and the two main players in that romance are Brooke and Chris. So I would have preferred if Brooke were more central to the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got some issues.
Okay, so Justine, I feel like I know how you felt about this movie overall, but would you say you liked it? Did you hate it? How'd you feel about A Family Affair?
Gosh, I don't think I hated it. I wouldn't put it at that, but I didn't like it.
It's very mid for you, shall we say?
It's pretty mid, but like on the low end.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really needed to be figured out a bit more. I don't know. It's kind of like how the status of the industry is now as a Netflix movie, meaning they didn't want to put a lot of budget to it. They just really want subscribers. They're not here to make grand cinema, you know?
Yeah, they want a movie that once you've watched one Christmas rom-com, another Christmas rom-com will pop up in your playlist to keep you on Netflix. That's what I feel like this movie, that's the niche that it fills.
Which it does. I wanted to then just watch another rom-com on Netflix, you know?
Exactly. Netflix knows what they're doing with the streaming rom-com market for sure.
Yeah, but I will say it could have benefited from another pass, even of like the notes that we gave throughout this, of just little tweaks here and there, and that could have just really sort of upped the quality a bit.
I agree. I feel like there are the bones of a pretty good movie in here. I felt that it had interesting themes and an interesting premise, but none of which were particularly explored. The age difference wasn't really explored. The normie with a celebrity wasn't really explored. It was all just like very glossed over, and therefore the romantic relationship became strictly about their personalities and whether their personalities worked. And then you have to rely on the chemistry of the performers. And I will say, overall, I find Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron to be charismatic people. I think that they're very competent actors. I think that they are able to deliver funny lines well. So I'd say overall, this movie was successful for me in the sense that it succeeded as a rom-com. I wanted the couple to get together. I was happy when they got together. I was rooting for them. It definitely wasn't a great movie, but I have to say, I enjoyed watching it. It's probably pretty forgettable. I certainly won't watch it again. But I wasn't unhappy that I spent almost 2 hours watching the movie. I felt like I was entertained. I got to shut off my brain for a little while. So, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, just a little uneven. Like, because there's definitely, like, when Zac Efron pops up, I'm like, oh, good. We're moving forward here in this. We're going to see a good scene, you know?
Maybe I'll watch it again at Christmas. No, probably not. I do wonder if maybe it would have gotten a better reception from audiences if it had come out around the holiday season.
Yeah. And I will say, it does now make me want to watch that Anne Hathaway movie. Because based off the little that I do know about it, I think it's from her POV.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which is what we're wanting from this movie.
Yes. That movie is called The Idea of You, and it's very similar. It's, I would say, a twin movie. She's the older woman who gets involved with a younger man. He's a celebrity. He's a member of a boy band, whereas she is not a celebrity. So, yeah, very similar themes, and from what I hear, very different execution. So I would be curious to watch that movie as well.
Yeah. You love twin movies.
Yes. Considered doing a whole other podcast about it, but not today. All right. Well, now that we have dissected A Family Affair, it's time to explore the Chekhov's guns. Let's see how we did. So I guess let's go through the movie chronologically when these guns first appeared. So I believe you had the first one?
Oh, yeah. I had the first couple. You keeping tally of my negative points?
I will. All right, so Chekhov's paparazzi, was that the first one?
Yeah, Chekhov's paparazzi shot. It didn't happen, but I think it should have.
I agree with you.
And then I had Chekhov's traffic jam. Didn't happen.
Also a good idea, though.
Oh, thank you.
And I will interject here with a Chekhov's gun that got away from both of us, which is Chekhov's breakup earrings.
Right, yes.
These obviously came back into the movie later. They had a big payoff, but I did not clock it, and neither did you, so
Nope.
I guess you win this round, movie.
Are you scoring for the movie too?
Maybe I should. All right, the next one was mine. It was Chekhov's grocery store rainstorm. I'm going to pat myself on the back because that did come back later. And I would say in the way that I envisioned it was going to come back. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself 2 points for that one.
Yeah. You can tell who's the writer here. The next one is mine. I had the Chekhov's phone, which nothing happened with the phone at all. Like after this, after this scene.
That is true. It's okay, though. Speaking of random objects, I would say another one that got away from us was Chekhov's chatouche.
Yes.
Because Chris is very annoyed that Zara has dirtied it, but then when he is in the throes of passion with Brooke, he is all too happy for her to rip that expensive chatouche off of his chiseled abs. All right, next up, I had Chekhov's super bitch pin. This did come back, but not in the way I expected. So I'm giving myself 1 point for identifying it, but I do not get any additional points because, yeah, I was wrong about that one.
Next, I had Chekhov's tequila.
Mm-hmm.
Very popular. Anytime alcohol is mentioned in any movie, you know people gonna be drinking.
You know they're gonna be doing it. So
Yeah.
yes, you get 2 points for that.
Boo.
You successfully identify Chekhov's tequila shots.
Yeah, and I even wrote gets drunk and bangs her mom, but then as they started like the scene come on later, I was just like, maybe they're only going to kiss. Like I was starting to doubt
yes.
myself.
You're like worried. You're like, no, they have to bang now.
Exactly.
I think that's it.
Oh, what about Chekhov's Chanel dress?
You know, I was thinking, could Chekhov's designer clothing closet be a thing? I don't know. It's more like what would you call it? A motif. They keep
Yeah.
returning to that designer closet, don't they? Was it a specific dress?
No, and that's the thing. I can't remember like what Zara pulled out and showed her friend because they were basically all black dresses.
That's true.
There wasn't like the one dress.
Right. Yeah, maybe if it had been like the Chanel dress that she's just never worn it because the moment had never been right. And then, yeah, it could have been. It could have been if we had script doctored it.
Yeah, now we're just adding more Chekhov guns into it.
Okay. Calculating. Boop, 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 boop. Here's the computer noises. All right. On Justine's side, let's tally it up. We have -1 point for Chekhov's paparazzi, -1 point for Chekhov's traffic jam, and -1 point for Chekhov's phone. However, we get +2 points for Chekhov's tequila shots, which brings us to a grand total of -1 point.
Better than I thought I was gonna do.
You know, I'm proud of you for going for it and for not lying. Because I will say right now, it'd be very easy to lie on this podcast.
Yeah.
I appreciate you going for it.
Well, it's also because I thought all my ideas were good ideas too.
That's what I love about you, your confidence. Yes. And on my side, I got +2 points for Chekhov's grocery store rainstorm and +1 point for Chekhov's super bitch, bringing me to a total of 3 points.
Wow.
I declare myself the winner.
Who will come on this podcast to defeat you?
I promise it's not rigged in the host's favor, I swear. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for A Family Affair. Justine, thank you so much for being with me here and for being my guinea pig on the first episode of Chekhov's Whatever. It was a true delight to have you.
Yeah, this feels like old times.
Old times. Oh. And you are welcome back anytime. In the meantime, where can people find you online, if anywhere?
They can't. I am.
Justine is a secret hermit recluse, so do not bother her.
No. I'm somewhere mysteriously in LA. Do not come and find me. The end.
All right. Thank you again, Justine. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I'll see you next time on Chekhov's Whatever. Bye. Hello, Meg from the future popping in to say you can, in fact, find Justine online. And no, I'm not doxing her. Justine has a brand new podcast out called The Render Room. On The Render Room, you can join podcast host and filmmaker Justine Gendron as she sits down with film industry professionals to explore their careers, communities, and their favorite movies. Each episode offers a unique glimpse into creative paths. If you enjoyed this episode of Chekhov's Whatever, be sure to check out Justine's podcast, The Render Room, on your favorite podcast app. Okay, bye for reals. Thanks for listening to Chekhov's Whatever. Go to chekhovswhatever.substack.com to follow along with the podcast. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and leave a positive review. You can also find video clips and full audio episodes on YouTube, so be sure to like and subscribe at Chekhov's Whatever. And finally, you can send email to chekhovswhateverpodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's end this show with a bang.